Well, good morning. Last time we had almost 2 units covered. So today I'll be doing a Herculean task of covering remaining 3 units. And you'll have to bear with me because I'll have to literally go very fast to cover all that syllabus which I mentioned last time, which usually we require around 30 hours. So we are doing a record of covering it in just 4 hours. So you will have to slightly bear with me and be at the pace with which I am going. And then I hope I am audible because I'm getting messages that sound.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Very clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so unit number 3 speaks about the meetings. And again, meeting is one such thing where I don't think I need to explain more because most of the people who are working here in this group, they have more experiences in organizing, conducting, or maybe carrying out the meetings or being a part of the meeting. So you people have the practical exposure to all the different types of meetings which you people carry out or either attend or chair the meeting or simply be the clerk of the meeting. So different roles which we people play in the meeting. So with reference to that, these are the important parts of any meeting, formally, whichever types of meetings you hold in the organization, any organization for that matter, may it be manufacturing industry or service or maybe an education industry like us, where in the meetings, these are the important points which are, I would say, the contents of any meeting which are important per se for conducting and carrying out the meeting. So agenda is one thing which, as we all know, and as you could see there written, that list of all the things that will happen or will be discussed. And usually the agenda is circulated to all those concerned people, which will include what are the things to be discussed right from the start of the first point on the agenda to the last point. Usually the first point of the agenda in all the cases of the meetings is whatever are the compliances required to be done in the earlier meeting. Whatever actions taken in the earlier meeting, those have to be present in this meeting. So usually the first point on the agenda is always the review of the earlier meeting. And then whatever points you would like to add in this meeting with reference to the that month's target or any other issues to be discussed. Depending upon the frequency of the meeting, this agenda will be changing. Now I am talking about the general meetings which are conducted in at the level of say manager or the central manager or middle management level. We are not talking about board meetings to a greater extent, but of course they're also the same thing or the same format usually followed. Second point in the meetings is apologies, wherein we talk about the people who are there in the meeting, but then who couldn't attend that meeting. So agenda is circulated, let's say to 20 people. And there are 2 or 3 people by some reason, maybe personal, maybe official, they are on a tour or maybe they are on some official duty, or maybe for some personal reason they are absent on a particular day, the meeting is scheduled. So usually these apologies are mentioned before the start of the meeting, and those will be mentioned by the chairperson of the meeting, or usually there is a coordinator, or we could say the clerks of the meeting who would be mentioning the apologies that out of 20 invitees, Mr. XYZ, Mr. Element is absent for some personal or professional reasons. So that should be mentioned at the start. Most of the meetings, this apologies formality is not very well followed, for a reason that when you mark the attendance of the meeting, it is already mentioned in the that attendance or the person who is not signing in front, and that person is obviously absent. And when you prepare the third point, minutes of the meeting, that time it will be very much clear that which are the people who have attended the meeting and which were the people who were not. So in the minutes, these apologies will be anyways appearing. So most of the times it is a I won't say a tendency, but a practice that apologies are not really mentioned in the meetings unless it is too much required. Specifically for the higher positions, the apologies are required to be mentioned because that person might be the important part carrying out in that particular meeting, discussions or maybe presenting certain data, certain information, certain kind of reports, etc. in the meeting. And if such person is absent, then in that case, the apologies may be mentioned, and in that case, the presentation responsibility is given to somebody else who might be junior to that person. But anyways, as I was telling, in the minutes of meeting, those things will be very clearly mentioned, who was present and who was absent. And minutes of meeting, as most of us know, those are the notes taken during the meeting, which will briefly record the discussions and decisions reached. So which is nothing but on each point on the agenda, what are the discussions happened, what are the decisions taken, and what are the things which are not decided anything, which targets are set, which people presented what, even the factual things are also mentioned in the minutes of the meeting, not only the things which have to be complied, but whatever has been presented, the summary of it is mentioned in the minutes of meeting. And that remains as one of the valid document for any formal organization. Chairperson, as I was mentioning, is the person who's in charge of the meeting. In a way, the person who calls that meeting is called as a chairperson. Sometimes it may happen in a very rare cases, because when a chairperson calls for the meeting, he needs to go through his calendar and find out whether he is available on a particular day for the meeting when he himself has called up that meeting. So it may be in rare emergency cases, the chairperson himself is not available for the meeting. Then somebody else can be given the responsibility by the chairperson who will conduct that meeting on his behalf. And then accordingly, the meetings will be planned and conducted smoothly. Then there is something called as a motion of the meeting, which is a formal proposal which is discussed during the meeting. That proposal is given usually by any one of the members of the meeting. And there are a few members, or there may be even a single member who's supposed to second that proposal. Second means who's supposed to support, or who is supposed to give more acceptance to the proposal which is put forth by somebody in the meeting as a member. So that motion is a proposal, or the point to be discussed, or a decision is to be discussed in that particular meeting is called as motion. If someone doesn't want to vote for, so usually when a motion is declared, a voting is also taken. So how many of you agree with this particular point? So it is simple. Voting is taken by just raising the hands, and those many numbers are mentioned by the person who's taking the minutes, and then the majority carries the point will be taken here. And if somebody doesn't want to vote for or against, it means somebody doesn't want to express his opinion or her opinion, then he or she can be said to be abstaining for that particular point. Means he is neither against or doesn't want to vote for that. So he may be wanting to remain neutral for that. So those are specifically noted, the people who abstains, not absent, abstains for that particular motion. So these 5-6 terminologies are important from the meeting perspective. Then going ahead, how you can have your meetings more effective. So those are the points. You are expected to be keep the meeting short and simple. So you shouldn't be extending the meeting unnecessarily for longer hours for a very simple reason. Excuse me, I need to attend this. Yes, sorry for that interruption. So a few things to be remembered while taking care about the meetings or making the meetings more effective. First and foremost point, which most of the managers do the mistake, is they unnecessarily elongate the meeting, which is boring from the attendance perspective. At the same time, it may happen due to a lot of points on the agenda. So you may break up the meetings into different agenda points so that you don't have to go and make the meetings too long. Anyways, the research says, some of the research work done in the area of management, it says that the managerial at the top level or senior levels, they invest, or they require almost 85% of their time on attending different kind of meetings, or either attending or conducting the meeting. So 85% time of 8 hours, that makes to somewhere around 6 to 7 hours. That itself is a very big time for meeting. But then it may be happening for maybe at a strategic level, or more at the senior level that may be required. But at least for the middle level managers, we are expected to keep the meetings as short as possible so that people do not get bugged up with it or bored with it. Usually in the manufacturing industry, they have got a concept called a standing meeting. So which is supposed to be the most idealistic one when you come right at the start and then you discuss and they give the responsibilities for the whole day. And then the entire meeting gets over just in 5 to 10 minutes as it is a physically standing meeting. Make sure that meetings won't be interrupted. This is again one thing which happens in most of the organizations. There are certain documents to be signed, then some visitors are there, urgent visitors, or some other interruptions are there. Such interruptions should be avoided by the chairperson who's conducting that meeting. So he should be channelizing, or he should be planning the meeting, scheduling the meeting in such a way that at least during the meeting time, he is free for attending the meeting, conducting the meeting, presenting, etc. And the same thing is to be communicated to all the people who are attending so that the meeting doesn't get interrupted. Send out the agenda, giving date, place, time of the meeting that anyway is formally happening in all the organizations. You need to circulate the agenda to all the people concerned, and then there won't be any problem in understanding those who are attending what are the points which are being discussed there. Then start our time. Of course, in organizations and all the formal places, meetings do start on the time, but very rare cases it may happen that meetings are not started on time, but then that is the ideal thing to do, start on time. Make sure that everyone has a chance to say something. Now, usually we have a inhibition or a kind of misconception in our minds about the meeting, is that meeting is something where only one person will speak and other person will only listen. It is not always true. So it is better that you can distribute the agenda for the sake of making the meetings more interactive. You can distribute the agenda points to the different people so that everybody gets a chance to present himself or herself, the points related to his or her department or his or her responsibility or job profile. At the same time, whenever you want to take any consensus, the discussion has to happen and the fruitful discussion should come out with the consensus at the end of the meeting so that everyone gets the chance to express and say something. That will make the meetings more interactive and more outcome based, I would say. And summarize all the conclusions, actions at the end so that everyone knows what is supposed to be done as a result of the meeting. So you have to communicate to all what has happened, what points we discussed, what were the conclusions taken, which are the places where the task responsibilities are given to whom, what are the deadlines of doing a particular work, what are the last days for the compliances which are supposed to be done. So all those things should be read out by either the chairperson or the clerks of the meeting, who will be taking down the notes, so that if at all any confusion or any kind of miswriting has happened, that could be rectified and that doesn't appear in the minutes of the meeting. So before the meeting, you can this could be just a checklist before the meeting. Did you know that what is the meeting all about? Even if you're a member or even if you're somebody representing for someone, whether you know that why you are attending it, whether you know what is expected of you, whether have you read all the paperwork. Supposing you are going to be the presenter on, let's say, the sales report of your region or sales report of the people who are working under you. So whether you have read all those paperwork, whether you've got all that data ready, if at all any cross questions are likely to be there, such as why in this particular region the sales figures are low, why in other there are so much, when you are talking or when you're claiming that a product requires some kind of modification. So how it can happen that in one area the sales is high and another area sales is low. So what kind of explanation or justification do you have for this? So as a presenter or as a member responsible for attending the meeting, you should be ready with all the paperwork, all the data, all information, all answers to all probable questions which are there. Then whether you have discussed the agenda items with your colleagues, because you may be representing your department, you may be representing all others whom with you are working, you may be representing your team who's working under your control. So you should discuss all these points which you are going to present as a team member or as a team lead or as a departmental head or as a colleague representing anybody. So you should be discussing all these agenda items with the colleagues so that they will also give you certain inputs which might be missing from your side or which might require to be presented in the meeting. During the meeting, did you listen carefully? Which nowadays is not happening. It has been taken as very negative thing to happen, that people are found either chatting on WhatsApp during the meeting, or they receive a call and they're attending the calls of the meeting. This is absolutely a disrespect to the people who are carrying on the meeting, and rest all who are very seriously attending it. So when you are attending a meeting, when you know that the next 1 hour you are not able to talk to anyone, chat with anyone, or receive anybody's call, you shouldn't do it unless it is too urgent. Like just now, as it happened, it was executive director of DYP was calling. Otherwise, on Sundays, nobody calls me, or even if somebody calls me, I don't attend the calls for a reason. Now I am conducting some kind of formal activity, so I should be looking at the mobile, right? So unfortunately, that is happening. When it makes it possible. Last lecture, I have told you that when we have got born with all of us are born with 5 senses. So when this sense is activated, hearing sense is activated, rest all sense becomes weak. So when you're hearing to somebody, listening to somebody on a phone, what is happening in front of you in the meeting, you're likely to miss those points during that maybe 1 or 2 minutes, whatever you're talking on the phone. Secondly, it disturbs others as well. So talking on phone is one thing where you are likely to miss this point, that is listening carefully. So you don't listen, you're not likely to listen when you're talking on phone. Chatting also concentrates more on you on the screen, and then typing, thinking what is to be typed, commenting on certain things which you're seeing on your handset. So all such things should be avoided. And the chairperson in that case should not be blamed if he fires you into the phone. So listening carefully is very much required, mandatory for you when you are responsibly attending a particular meeting from a particular position. Notice how others are feeling by looking out for the signs of boredom, shyness, anger. When you're presenting a particular point, when you are talking on some firing issue in the organization, you should be taking care that you look at the people, look at the facial expression of the people, look at the body language of the people, so that you can decide the intensity of your presentation, the intensity of your heated arguments. You can reduce down. We do not want to have arguments during the meeting which might land up to any particular results, unnecessary enmity between the two people. So such kind of things should be avoided during the meeting. And only you can understand that by looking at the people's faces. You can ask the questions when you didn't understand or wanted more information. Usually when the questions are asked, may not be as a formality of a QA session at the end of the meeting, but as required for the clarification of the doubts, maybe certain data missing from your presentations, and that has been asked by the chairperson or authorities or somebody present in the meeting who is likely to get affected by your presentations and the decisions taken by during the meeting. So you need to ask the questions when you didn't understand or wanted more information on that. Put across your own point of view clearly. So you have to take care, and you have to make sure that you have put across your own points and view very clearly. All data presented, all information is very well said and presented there. After the meeting, you have to cross check. Did you think about why meeting was successful or unsuccessful? If it is successful or unsuccessful, that you have to justify, and you have to understand this and keep a record of it with you. You should tell to your colleagues what has happened in the meeting in the forms of course, minutes of meeting, and to your colleagues when the meeting is over. Formally, the minutes of meeting will be followed. But then as a responsible representative of your colleagues or maybe department or your team lead, team members, you should be telling back to the people what has happened about the point which you presented, about the things which you discuss about, concern with your areas, and then minutes of meeting will be followed to your department. Think about what you would do differently next time. If typically you're likely to get negative feedback about the presentations, about the data presented, whatever, then you should be taking care next time when you attend the meeting, specifically as far as the representation of somebody is concerned. This is just an example of agenda of the meeting. I think you people are knowing it better. So you have to have date, then to, from, then subject of the meeting, and then you may skip writing dear Amol because this may be going to all the people concerned. So you don't need to, have that mail merger done. So you can avoid that by being personal and writing these kind of salutations. So team meetings to discuss following issues is scheduled on. You have to mention the date, time, place, floor if it is required. So 4th floor of the head office, wherever. If it is not in your branch, maybe in some other branch. Agenda for the meeting is as follows. So these are the agenda points to be discussed. Means these are the points to be discussed in the meeting. So training program, decision on advertising, decision on changing the advertising agency, training program on newly recruited team, sort out the compensation issues on accident, somebody on some individual case, then review of sales figures, appointment of regional head. Many such points could be added. Then signature of the person who's sending the agenda, and CCs you can mention, or you don't need to mention if you're sending it to the department. You can simply mention the department names if at all required, but otherwise it may not be required because the concerned person will be notified and those will be taken signatures on the day of meeting. Then this is how your minutes.
Sir, sorry to disturb you, but I'm not getting your voice clearly.
Okay, but
only me or everybody? Can someone share?
Initially, there were few messages about 15 minutes before that there was no sound, but then after that there was no such message. So
no, it's audible, sir. Actually,
yeah, it's audible.
No.
Maybe some issue on the network side might be possible.
It may be some network issues because initially I was also not getting clear voice, but after that it was clear. Okay. Now it is clear.
Okay, sir.
Fine, not an issue. Not an issue. It may happen due to some network fluctuation. Doesn't matter.
Okay, sir. Please continue.
So examples of minutes of meeting, again, all of you being working in the industries, you know how the minutes of meeting are written. So this is just an example taken from the previous agenda of the meeting. What are the decisions taken as far as changing that advertising agency, then sales training program for the newly recruiter, then decision for compensation, Mr. Vikas Khosla is kept pending. So whatever action has been taken, all the points mentioned in the earlier agenda, what has happened about that comes as a result or outcome of the meeting. And this is circulated to all the people concerned with these 7 points in the agenda. Now the next point in the syllabus is email etiquettes and effective emails. So basically the purpose of the email is to communicate in as less words as possible. And that is where most of the people who are using emails, all of us of course, make a mistake in writing too many things in an email. So email and meetings, both the things to put together. One common rule is there that you have to keep it short and simple. You should not unnecessarily put in too much amount of data or information in it, and unnecessarily should not make it wordy or too much crowded with the words. Few things to be done to avoid the email being more cluttery or more difficult to understand. First is grammatical errors to be avoided, punctuation mistakes to be avoided, misspelling is to be avoided. So wrong spellings, punctuation mistakes, and grammatical errors. Fortunately, we do have a facility in all the Microsoft Word and similar kind of software, which will tell you which are the grammatical mistakes without you having any kind of app on your handsets or on your PCs or on your system. But of course, all of us might be knowing that there is an app called as Grammarly. So if you install that Grammarly app on your PC or on your entire system, so you can subscribe to that Grammarly app for annual. And then that will take care about all these grammatical mistakes, punctuation mistakes, and spelling mistakes. So it will give you the suggestions also. Would you like to replace this sentence by this sentence? So it will change the voice if required. It will give you some another suggestion or maybe synonyms for certain words which might be difficult for the people to understand. It will give you an easier word than a very complicated or a flowery word which you might have used probably to show your vocabulary skills to all the people and to show probably you are the great manager and you know better English than somebody else. So those things are not required. It is always said that the best language is the one which is very simple. Because ultimately, overall talking about the communication is all about making the thing simple, not complicated. So from that perspective, avoidance of grammatical error, punctuation mistakes, and misspellings could be verified by the Grammarly software. Otherwise, even if you open your Microsoft Word and just keep on typing the points to be discussed, the Word will give you, or even Excel and PowerPoint will also give you the spelling mistakes with and different kind of connotations. They will have signs they will use, red underline, then two parallel blue lines, then dotted blue lines. So every time it will mean different as far as the punctuation marks, whether it is a punctuation mistake, whether it is grammatical error, or whether it is a spelling error. You can simply right click on that and it will give you the proper suggestion. without having Grammarly app or a Grammarly software. But then it is widely used app nowadays, so you can think of Grammarly installed for avoiding all kinds of errors. Then lengthy sentences, lengthy paragraphs should be avoided. So try to be keeping it simple, in less than a sentence of less than 10 to 12 words in one sentence, so that understanding will be easier. Then making unnecessary copies, unless and until required, the mail should not be sent to too many people in either CC or BCC. I'll come to it in later slides. Then avoidance of capitalization, because capital letters are very difficult to read. So usually whenever you want to give a heading or maybe the name to a particular figure or a model, there you can use capital. But then for a general mail, you are not expected to write all the things in capitals. Why I'm telling this? Because you may be knowing, or some of maybe you may be working with the architectural firm. So architects, then interior designers, engineers, they are habitual to write all the things in capital, because in their education as an engineering, when they make the drawings, most of the things are written in capitals as the title of the figure or the diagram. Most of the drawings which they make, everything is written in capitals. So they are used to write in capitals, which should be avoided. I know many architects and interior designers and engineers who keep on writing capital even in their day-to-day routines. While writing simple notes or forwarding somebody some one paragraph, they will write everything in capital, which is very difficult to read. So capitalization should be avoided. I mean, upper and lower cases should be used. Avoid casual writing. Emails are basically for the purpose of formal communication. So whatever you send to anybody can be treated as a legal matter at times if required when you send it through email. So email is treated as a proof, or email is treated as a legal matter. So don't be casual on emails. You may have a separate email for your official communication. You may have a separate email for your normal communication, where your friends might be communicated with that. So usually that's the reason why most of the companies do have the formal email with after @ the name of your company. So for example, my email ID is director@devypayments.com. So every company has got that Outlook or similar kind of another software applications where you will have a formal email. So all the formal communication can be happening on that. And you can have your own Gmail or Reddit mail, Hotmail, whatever you like, those emails for your personal reason. But then in formal places, you shouldn't be writing anything casual in the emails. Then texting abbreviations. So as far as possible, abbreviations in short forms should be avoided, because most of the short forms we people use are not standard one. So if you take out any dictionary, maybe Cambridge or Harvard and many other dictionaries are available in India or abroad. If you come across any dictionary, standard dictionary I'm talking about, which is globally accepted, so you'll find there are certain abbreviations mentioned at the end of the dictionary. And those abbreviations are the ones which are accepted world over, not only in India. The kind of abbreviations which typically we make in informal communication like WhatsApp or Twitter or all such kind of social media websites or applications, those abbreviations are not standard. For example, UR, we very comfortably write small u and small r for YOUR. That is not a standard short. We write GN for good night. That is not a standard short. We write TC, take care. That is not a standard short form. So all such kind of abbreviations should be avoided in the mail. So if you want to write good night or good morning greetings, you have to write full words rather than using the abbreviations, making it simple, which you use on WhatsApp. Those are not the standard one. Unless you find it in the dictionary, all such kind of abbreviations should be avoided in any kind of email communication. You may be having certain standardized short forms for your organization's internal communication. Those you may continue. For example, GB is one standard short form which is used in all the organizations, but still not treated as a standard short form. GB we call it as a governing body, and GBM is governing body meeting. RRC is one short form used in our industry, which is Research and Recognition Committee, which is not in other industries. So it doesn't become the standard short form worldwide for the common people who are reading the dictionary. So it may be a short form which is used in your type of industry. You can definitely go for that. So those standard short forms should be, as far as possible, avoided. Another example which I can give you of the short forms is ZIT is one technique which is used in operation supply chain management and inventory management. That is zero inventory technique, which is a standard short form. But then the person who doesn't belong to supply chain and inventory, that person won't be able to understand that meaning. So therefore, it is better you avoid all the abbreviations which are organization specific or which are departmental specific. So certain departments like HR do have certain short forms which are related to only HR. The marketing people would understand. Marketing people will have got a short form as POP. So if I write that short form in a mail as a marketing person, that we will be able to put up this particular order at POP. And I'm sending the same thing to some architect who's involved in that particular communication, and he will understand POP as plaster of Paris, whereas what marketing person want to say is point of purchase. So abbreviation is correct from marketing perspective, but then to whom he is sending, that if the receiver is with reference to that model which you have seen, if the receiver is likely to be varied receiver, then you have to take care about each receiver who's receiving that mail. And therefore, summarily, what I want to tell you is that abbreviations, short forms, should be avoided as far as possible, unless you are talking it only to the people who are belonging to that particular fraternity or that particular group. So same abbreviation may have different meaning. For example, another simple example in our day-to-day life. When I say MS, all of us will have got different short, long form of this MS. Some of you will say Maharashtra State, some of you will say Mild Steel, some of those who are interested in cricket, they will say MS Dhoni. So for the same word, everyone will have a different meaning. So why to have such kind of confusions created by using those kind of short forms? So avoid texting abbreviations. So these are few etiquettes or manners to be followed in emails. There's one more thing which we keep on doing in emails, that in subject line itself we write gentle reminder. According to certain corporate ethics and what I would say, decency norms, a gentle reminder is treated as a humiliation to somebody. Gentle reminder means you are considering that person as below level of yours, and then you are considering that person is likely to forget that. So instead of using gentle reminder, the word in the subject line or anywhere in the mail, you are expected to write it in this way: that dear sir, I have sent you some XYZ mail on so and so date. Did you get a time to go through it? Please let me know. Gentle reminder is not the word which is used as per the etiquettes of email. So, but then it has become so much common nowadays that we very easily and very frequently keep on sending the gentle reminders to anybody, to our colleagues, to our bosses also at times. We should be avoided.
Sir Yogesh here. I have one question. In sometimes in our corporate culture, we're using friendly reminder. What it means?
No, that's what I said. The things are such that we have been using those words, and that becomes a habit. I'll give you, since you have asked this question, I'll give you another word: postponement of a meeting, which is a very common word. So we postpone the meeting which was scheduled today, and we are planning it tomorrow or day after. We very casually use the word prepone the meeting. Prepone means it was scheduled tomorrow, but then I want all of you to come today. So what I'm doing, I'm asking you to come a day before. So just like postponing is a very common word, standard word, means taking the meeting later than the scheduled date, whereas the word prepone is not there in standard English. You can type it in the Google, you will not get that word. But then we have been using, we very comfortably say that word preponing of the meeting. Just like that, gentle reminder, friendly reminder, all means the same. But then it is in a way, according to some etiquettes, standard etiquettes, I would say, it is treated as an insult of somebody, where you are disbelieving on that person's maybe time commitment or maybe his memory or something like that. So friendly reminder you write, or whether you write a gentle reminder, that is not etiquettes wise, it's not good, but then it has happened that you continue writing it in that way. So kind of chalta hai. So it is accepted, it's not treated negatively, but then there might be some people who are very punctual about such kind of using very proper words. They may have some apprehensions about those. So better avoid it if it is accepted by all, but if it is objected by somebody, then you have to take back seat, because it is, though these things are not made as a rule anywhere, but then it is just like etiquette, manners, ethics, moralities, principles. These are not written anywhere. But then these are the things which have to be followed we being in society or we being in a corporate world.
Okay, sir. Thanks. It's a new thing. I just came to know.
Yes, that's what. Right. Then the point was about the different kind of reports which we keep on writing. So this is just a list of different reports which we write: sales report, inspection reports, annual reports, audit reports, feasibility reports, progress reports, white papers, etc. So all these reports will be varying from person to person, from department to department. Not all the people write all the people write sales report. Not all the people will write inspection reports. So who's supposed to write that? For example, some accident has happened in a manufacturing place. So your welfare, that safety officer will come. Then maybe some interrogations likely to happen. Then some advocate will come. Then all those witnesses, they will come, and then that advocate will prepare an inspection report. So only he will write that report. Annual reports are written probably by all the departments, what has happened, what are your targets, then all those facts, figures, graphs, and all the information to be put in the annual reports. Again, all the departments, most of the departments are supposed to write it. Audit reports are written, as the name suggests, by the auditor. Usually, these are related to two things. One is your financial audit, and second is your material audit, as all of you may be knowing, working in your type of industry. So audit report, when it is done for the materials, again, usually the experts are called from the outside. For finance, you do have internal auditors, and you have got external auditor, maybe some kind of some chartered accountant from outside. So these reports are to be prepared by the concerned people and submitted to your organization. Feasibility reports are done by the persons who are given a responsibility of starting a new business or with new location, diversification of the business, starting with an additional store or maybe additional operations in a particular city or in a particular country. So that do you have that feasibility, possibility, or market, or the possibility of growth for your organization, that you need to check. So feasibility report is given by some external agency, usually as a consultant. So they will study all those demographics in that particular area, then possibility of demand to your product, then possibility of growth of your product, then past histories of similar kind of products which are available in that area, your competitors. Not many things are to be put up in the feasibility report, but then those will be submitted by the external agency for your to your company to start up with a new venture or diversify or start up with new outlet, start up with new branch, etc. Progress reports are maybe a part of your annual report where you could be mentioning the progress of the department, progress of individuals, or progress of the teams. White papers is just like doing a PhD. It's the only thing is that when people write white papers, they don't get that PhD as a degree. But then in short, they do a lot of research which is pertaining to a particular industry type, and they will prepare a report and which will help that industry to grow exponentially. So white papers are being given a lot of importance in the industries as far as the new innovation, new patents, new kind of copyrights thing which are done by the people, new innovation people have come up with, new suggestions people have come up with. So they do a lot of research. They will prepare a white paper that is used for the benefit of the organization. So it is just like a research done on certain assumptions, certain hypotheses, certain data is collected, that is analyzed, then certain analysis and conclusions are done based on that data, and then you come out with some kind of suggestions, and those suggestions are to be implementable, and those are implemented by the organization. So white paper remains as one of the important documents as far as your research done in that industry or for that particular industry type is concerned. So these different reports we do write, and usually these are the contents of the report. Anatomy means the overall structure of the report. There's a cover page, so that reading that cover page, a fair idea the reader will get what that report is talking about. Then there's a title page which will mention the title of that report, related to which particular department, done by whom, under whose guidance, submitted to whom, etc. Letter of transmittal means to whom this report is to be handed over. That is what is called as letter of transmittal. Means who is concerned person who is likely to be taking some action or taking it forward to the concerned department or handing it over to the concerned systems. Table of contents is nothing but the index. It should also have list of illustrations, some kind of figures, some model which you're printing along with that report should be there, some figures, some pictures, etc. Whenever you're writing list of illustrations, you're including in the report the sources. If you're taking it from internet, or if you're taking it from some annual reports of the past, if you're taking it from some online free resources available, you must be mentioning the source from where you have taken all that data from. But then this is just the list, just like an index of all the figures as well as all the tables which you have put into the entire data. So you should have to have a separate table of contents, table of illustration, table of figures, and list of tables with along with the page numbers, along with the title of that figure or title of that table. And then there is something called as executive summary, which is the explanation of cover page in detail. So cover page is one page, what I would say, one page concise idea of the entire report as far as the report is concerned. Some people call this cover page as the one which is written on the top, which is nothing but the same as title page, but which is not so. So cover page is a one page summary of executive summary, right? So executive summary is the summary of say 200 pages report which you prepared, brought in down to maybe 20, 25 pages. 1/10 of the total thickness of the report should be the summary, which is called as executive summary. So the people who are decision makers, they don't have time to read all through 200 and 300 pages. So if you just give them 20, 30 pages to read, they can just ponder over and they can just go through it. And that is called as an executive summary. And then comes report body. And this report body includes introduction, that means purpose and scope, limitations, assumptions, methods, which are taken care just in a brief while writing that report. Then background or history of the problem. If, when you write the report, usually the reports are written for some kind of assessment done for some kind of future problems which are likely to come up, and before they come up, you are supposed to submitting a report. So background or history of the problem. Then body will consist of representation, interpretation of data, which has to be collected from you by the different respondents. Then, in research perspective, you might have learned in that subject called as research methodology. We have two types of data. One is primary and second is secondary. Primary data is I'm collecting the data across the table. I'm meeting the people. I'm collecting the responses from you. I'm conducting an interview from you. I'm conducting group discussions with you. I am taking a survey through the Google Forms. So it is one-to-one communication is happening between me and respondent, and the data collected is called as primary data. Secondary data is taken from all the other sources which are not primary, means through the books, through researches, through online resources, through Google, different websites, then through research papers earlier done, through white papers which are already done, through PhD theses which are already done. So it is by getting information from other researchers and putting it into your report. That is called as secondary data. Still, it remains as a data and could be treated as a valid data. But again, as I said, whenever you are taking data from anywhere, whether it is a figure or a table or any data information, any paragraph you are taking from anywhere, you must be able to mention, or you must mention the source from where you are taking the data, because that matters a lot as far as the Copyright Act is concerned. So if you're taking something from somebody's website which is copyrighted, so that person may file a case against you. Somebody who's got a patent and you are not mentioning his name in your report, that person may file a case against you under copyright, IPR Act, intellectual property right. So you should be careful while taking data from somewhere and not mentioning that person's name. Some of the times, in case of copyrights and patents, you will have to ask a written permission from those people. To give an example, when you see the movies or when you see those dramas, etc., so all the people who are who must have written those drama, basic theme, etc., they can claim the copyright. You might have been knowing a recent case of Three Idiots, when the movie was taken from Chetan Bhagat's novel, but then he was not paid at that time. So Chetan Bhagat filed a case against the producer of the movie, and then the matter was sorted out because he was claiming that the movie was based on his novel. So point is, whatever you are taking from anywhere, you must be mentioning the source or take a formal permission from the concerned person. Then you should come to the conclusion and recommendation based on your interpretation of the data. So if your interpretation of data says that there are 85% people who are agreeing with a particular fact, then your conclusion should be majority of the people. Conclusion does not include any kind of fact, any kind of figures. It should be in a form of descriptive things written as a conclusion. So which should be giving an overall outcome of your report, as well as what is the purpose of conclusion, what is the purpose of the research, to recommend something. certain steps to be taken, certain corrective actions to be taken, certain actions to be taken against anybody. So it depends upon what kind of report you are writing, and then you should be writing the recommendations at the end. Then you have to write, as I mentioned, references or the word cited. Cited means which you have used, taken up from some website, taken up from books, and you have put up in this particular report. So those should be cited, means mentioned, that references from which website you have taken, or from which particular source you have taken that. That's called as reference. Then there is something called as appendices, sorry, that in the place of X there should be C. Appendices is nothing but what all additional things you want to put up at the end. Append itself means putting at the end. So whatever you want to add additionally, which may not be the part of the formal report, but then which is a supporting document. So interview transcripts, interview questionnaires, then whether the tallies, whichever you might have done for the questions and answers, then certain printouts which you require, certain reports, certain attendance reports, certain satisfaction reports. So whatever you want to put up as a supporting document for whatever you put up in the data, that will be put up into the report as an appendices, which is also called as simply appendings. Okay, so on annexures is another word used for that. So which is always at the end of the report, and that's how you will formulate the report. This is the skeleton, and then the body of the report will consist all of this. What report you write, this certain things will be slightly changing here and there depending upon the type of writing. Next part in the same was business letters. So these are the different business letters which we people keep on writing in our career of corporate. Covering letter or a job application letter. It's a cover letter and job application. Most of the people think it's same, but it's not the same. Cover letter is, suppose you see some advertisement and you want to apply for that particular position. Advertisement will not only mention the designation, where the JD of that designation is also mentioned. You have to justify in a letter called as cover letter. How do you match up with that JD? Whatever experience you have got, whatever positions you have been working with, whatever type of industry you might have worked with, how your experiences matching with the GD, what has been asked for that particular position. That explanation or justification is nothing but a cover letter. Job application letter may be a simple application letter without mentioning much of the facts which are there mentioned in the CV, which is not a cover letter. Cover letter is more in detail. Job application may be with reference to so I would like to offer my candidature, or I would like to apply for this particular position. Please let me know what are the further processes. This could be simple job application. See, that means attachments or enclosures or my brief CV, my CV at a glance, etc. So job application letter is much simpler as compared to cover letter. Cover letter explains your ability. That cover letter has to keep on changing depending upon the position which you're holding in. Supposing you are into operations supply chain area and the company is asking for a manager inventory and you are applying for that. So your experience, whatever you got in the industry is working, should be mentioned in a cover letter that how you are fit to hold that position of manager inventory. Supply chain takes care about inventory management. Supply chain is also responsible for purchase. So if the company is asking for a purchase manager, the same cover letter will not be helpful there. So you have to make another cover letter, again justifying how your experience may be working with some XYZ company in purchase department is more logical for you to make more suitable candidate for that particular. So cover letter will keep on changing depending upon the requirement and your fitness to that particular position. Interview letters, we all keep on doing it working in the industry. Typically HR people are definitely doing it. You send a call letter, then you conduct an interview, then maybe different rounds of interviews, you might have to send different call letters, but nowadays all these things are happening on email or physically also those are happening. Then there is something as an offer letter. So based on offer letter, people decide, people are bound that you have been selected and then you don't have to go anywhere else and you will, as per your commitment, you have to join us after 1 month of your completion or 2 months of your completion of notice period, the earlier option. So offer letter should mention all the terms and conditions at which he is hired. Difference between offer letter and appointment letter is only that appointment letter is given on the first day of joining. Offer letter might be given 1 month or 2 months in advance when the interview is conducted and the person has actually been appointed there in that particular. So that he can show this offer letter, because most of the organization ask when somebody resigns, they will ask you an offer letter from the place where you have gone for an interview. Then only I will treat as authenticated. Otherwise, you will have to mention some personal reason I am resigning. Right? But then most of the times when somebody writes a personal visa, the organizations and companies know that the person is changing the job. So some companies make it mandatory, even if not offer letter, they will ask you to show them the resignation letter from the earlier organization, and then they will allow you to leave. So some such letters we keep on writing, and there are certain formats which I'll speak about in next slides. Then sales letter are also called as quotation letter. So those people who are working in the sales department or maybe in marketing, going at a higher hierarchical level. So quotation letters are very frequently written to market your company, to sell your product, to talk about your product. So sales letters will include all that information which your product is talking about. In typical industry words, we call it specifications. So specifications of your product, then how to use the product, guidelines of using the product, terms and conditions of your quotation, then terms and conditions of the payment, terms and conditions of what we call as DLP, defect liability period. So all those things will be coming into the sales letters or the quotation letters. To some extent, which is mentioned in your book, which is given you for reference, it also speaks about tenders. So most of the tenders could be the part of this quotation letter or sales letter. Rather, it is the other way around. Quotation is the part of the tender. Where you prepare a tender, tender will consist about all those conditions under which the other party is supposed to execute that work, the number of agencies required, then the terms, conditions of payment, terms and conditions of working, technical specifications, then general specifications, material specifications, bill of quantities, then letter of intent. Many documents are there, drawings, then layout. All those things will prepare one particular tender document, wherein the BOQ, what we say in typical manufacturing industry, is called as bill of quantities. There's another word for that called as abstract sheet. So abstract sheet has got a column serial number, then there is a description, then there is a column called as title as quantity, then rate, amount and unit. Of course, the sequence is not the same. After description, you have got quantity, then there is unit, then there is rate and there is amount. Rate and amount columns are kept blank. You as a person who's preparing that tender or preparing that letter inviting the tenders. I'm now discussing about the tenders, not sales letter. So when you're preparing this tender document, you are supposed to leave that rate and amount column blank, description of the item, quantity, and the unit in which that particular object, that particular item is measured, that those three columns are filled in. The tenderer who is filling the tender, he will fill up the rate and the amount column, and he will submit it back to you, as you are the person who have raised that tender, who has floated that tender. All such tenders are received by your office. Let's say that there are 10-20 tenderers who are filling up the tender. Those tenderers are called up in a meeting called as tender opening meeting, and in front of all, the tenders are listed along with the name of the person, name of the agency or the company who has filled up that tender and their cost. And it is simply sorted out from A to Z, that is from lowest to highest, and the person who is at the top of the list, that person will be awarded with the tender. So that is also kind of, I would say, a big business letter. It's a kind of business letter which has got a lot of contents and which is to be done in a very meticulous way. So therefore, this is the subject which I teach to this architectural engineering college. So it's a big tender document which I teach to them for one single semester, and we prepare one tender document at the end of a semester as a part of outcome of that semester. So 3 months teaching is I have tried to tell you in just 5 to 10 minutes time. But then again, it is also kind of business communication document which we have to keep on writing, which is of course not can be called as a letter, but then it could be the part of tendering or quotations taken from the party who are called as tenderers. And the person who gets a tender, out of 20, only one person will get that tender, is called as a contractor. Then the agreements are signed between the contractor and you, then contractor and your owner, contractor and other agencies, and then all formalities are being completed there. Then there are letters called as appreciation letter or commendations letter, which should be written more in the organizations, but then which are not unfortunately written much. So there has to be some system state that if somebody does some good things, of course it is happening nowadays in most of the industries from the point of view of employee engagement, employee appreciation, employee motivation, and sustenance of employees, so on and so forth. So you have to write appreciation letter, the reason for which the particular person is appreciated, that appreciation letter should be preferably given in a hard copy so that it remains as a record. Of course, Gmail or any email communication is also treated as a formal record. But appreciation letter should be in a hard copy, which should be given in a common meeting so that everybody other knows that somebody has done a commendable work, and therefore he or she is also likely to get motivated because of the appreciation letter. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen that way. Most of the people, rather than getting motivated, will get or feel jealous about that person. But then that is human tendency. We cannot keep on doing it. So you have to see as a manager or as a departmental head or a senior person, how do you appreciate, what is to be appreciated. There has to be some guidelines defined by the organization, and then only you should be giving this appreciation letter. Then resignation, termination letters are again very much common. Resignation letters are more common because people keep on changing their jobs very frequently in a country like India. Whereas in an advanced countries such as Japan, they have got a concept called as lifetime employment. So you join our company at the age of 23, 24, you will get the retirement from our company only. Means for 20, 35, 40 years, you be with us, and what is going to happen to you after 60 years, that we'll be able to tell you at the time of appointment, which unfortunately doesn't happen in Indian industries. So people, if you ask, as a candidate, if you ask a question that what will be my designation after 5 years, what will be my salary after 5 years, no organizations is likely to give it answer unless the organizations who are very much ethical or who are following rules and regulations. That may be one of the reasons on one side, the policies which are of the organization, that might be the reasons for people who are resigning. There are much more cases of resignation in a country like India as compared to the advanced countries like Japan and Germany, French, where resignation concepts, resignations are less, because here in our organizations in our country, most of the organizations are something called as unorganized sector. No doubt for unorganized sectors also there are certain rules, law, regulations to be followed, but unfortunately we don't. So resignations are more. So there's a standard format for resignation. Even if you don't want to follow that, you can write on a plain piece of paper that I would like to resign from the current position which I'm holding right now. I'm giving this notice of resignation as per my terms and conditions of employment. I may be relieved on the completion of the notice period. This could be the simplest way of resignation. You can thank all the management, etc. Just as a courtesy. Termination letter is the other way around, where management will ask you to leave. With God's grace, nobody should get this kind of letter where organization is terminating you for some ill things which you might have done, some negative things you might have done. You have humiliated somebody, you fought with somebody, then you have got heated discussion, you hit somebody. So all such kind of activities which may defame the organization can lead to your termination. So it is better you resign than organization can terminate. Before it happens and may have a negative impact on your career, is better organization should not terminate. Then there's a complaint letter which is related to sales. I'm talking about. So sales or the people who are your clients, they have purchased the product from you or they are availing your services, and they come out with a complaint that your system is not working. We have got an ERP with us and we have taken it from you as a software development company, but there are a lot of problems with ERP. So they will write down all the probable problems which they're facing, which is a letter of complaint. Complaint letter, whenever you write, that letter has to be also written in a very decent way, not putting a blame on somebody. So these are the following difficulties which you're facing. Instead of writing, these are the following things which your software do not have. So it is just like being defensive rather than offensive. So you don't need to point a finger at them. You can simply say, these are the problems which we are facing. We are ultimately at the end of the day, we want to say the same, that these are the problems in your software. But then instead of directly putting a blame, these are the problems which we are facing. The complaint letter will be mild and those person will not be getting humiliated, or they will not take it otherwise, and the complaint will be sorted out. The more harsh complaint letter you will write it to the company, to your vendors, your suppliers, whosoever, then the more your complaint is likely to be taken negatively or maybe avoided to sort it out. Because the person on the other side, though you're talking to a company, on the other side there's a human being sitting there on the other side. So from HR perspective, you should be always understanding the psychology of organizations in the same psychology of people who are working in, or in short, a psychology of individual human being. So while writing complaint letter also, you should be very much mild. It should, I don't mean that you shouldn't be strong in putting your complaint. So it has to be always in the stage wise. So first complaint should always be in the mildest language. Then you talk to them in slightly harsh language. Still they're not understanding, then show them the points of your agreement which has happened. Show them that point number 32 says that any complaint raised should be sorted out within 7 days. Now it is 10 days, you're not sorted out. So step by step, you start aggravating with the problem. And then if at all required, you may take an action against them for non-compliance of terms and conditions of satisfaction of that agreement which is happening. Apology letter. So when a letter of complaint is received, ideally every organization providing service or some goods should write an apology letter. You can sort out the complaint letter, but then you should apologize at the start for, even if it may not be the fault. You might simply write that we apologize for the inconvenience which is caused due to our product or due to our services. We'll definitely look into the matter, and with the matter will be sorted out as early as possible or immediately or as per terms and conditions of the contract. So there's no harm in apologizing, but then if people don't do that, so which may slightly have a negative impact on the relationships of even the organizations to organizations. Office memorandum is one letter which is also called as inter-office or inter-communication letter. Usually, when we say memo or memorandum, unfortunately, we have a negative meaning of that memo technique. Because the reason for which most of the Indian organizations are giving memo are for some kind of discipline action to be taken against someone. Whereas the simple meaning of memorandum is making the people aware or making the people remind about something that, or maybe communicating certain decisions. Memorandum is always used in the industries, ideally should be used in the industries as a replacement to circular. So memorandum and circular are not much different, but then only thing is that circular may be to the department overall and memorandum may be individual at times. But most of the times in the industries, memos are given for or against a particular discipline action. So memo is treated as a negative term or a negative letter. When we talk about people getting a memo, all other people will start gossiping because that person has got a memo, means he must have done something wrong. Not at all. Memo is a very simple letter written to you individually or written to the entire department. When it is to the department, it may be called as a circular. When it is to the individual, it could be called as a memorandum. So those terminologies should be actually used as synonymous terminologies, but in industries, unfortunately, it's not. If you refer to the guideline book, this is a book. So you will see that in this book also they have mentioned, they have given some examples of memorandum. And the meaning which we know of memorandum, the same example is not at all given in the book. Yes, Mr. Anand, do you have some query?
Yes, sir. So is it similar to show cause letter?
No, that's what I'm saying. So show cause letter is a different type of letter altogether. It is not at all a memo. Show cause letter where you mention all what has happened and then you ask an explanation. And that show cause letter itself is called in the industries as memo, and that's why memo has been has got a negative connotation to the word. So, if, for example, I'll just go through this book. If you see, there are a few examples of memos which they have listed here. Let me check.
Sir, for any memo, is it expected that to whom memo is sent,
Yes.
to reply on it or give some explanation on it?
Yes. It is very much necessary that you are asking, you are sending a mail to whom. So that's the format of any kind of memo. If I read the format here, I don't know whether it is there in my slide or not. No, it's not there. So it is talking about to whom you are sending. It may be to the department or to the individual. From means who's sending that memo, then date on which the memo is sent, and then the subject of that memo. And then you can just plainly go on writing the paragraphs, and then at the end you are supposed to sign, the person who is sending that memo. So this is the format. So if you see in this book, may not be visible from your place, you can refer to this book later. One example they have given is meeting of the courier agency. of memo. Another memo example they have given is the dearness allowance, which is for the last 3 months. Another example they have given is special discount for the commercial vehicle. There is no example of memo which is written as a part of a disciplinary action. So that's what I'm repeatedly telling, that the meaning of memo, we have taken it in the negative way, which is not always. Whereas the question which is asked by Mr. Anand is that show cause letter is not a memo. Show cause letter is show cause letter. So asking that person to tell us why that particular person is behaved in this way, why that particular person has lost a document, why that particular has reacted in a particular way. So show cause letter will further lead to disciplinary action if required. Memo is given to the most of the employees and most of the organization as a part of disciplinary action that may be treated as show cause letter. So, but cannot be used as synonymous. Purpose is different. So basic purpose of memo is all those which I have told you. But actually what is happening is memo is taken negatively. It could be show cause letter at the start, and then show cause letter will lead to further inquiries from the departments and then all the witnesses, and that will go to the termination. So show cause letter may lead to termination. Memo not necessarily should lead to termination.
Sir, what I understood, memo can be positive or negative. It's a one-way communication, and show cause is a negative. It's a two-way communication. Am I right?
Memo ideal is positive communication.
Okay.
But the way we have been proceeding, as earlier also I have told, the word gentle reminder, that the word becomes common and we keep on using that. So memo word is used negatively. The real meaning of memo is not negative, whereas show cause notice is definitely negative.
Okay.
Memo is always a positive terminology.
Okay.
Going ahead quickly, the parts of business letter which we have been writing. So date, of course, has to be there at the top. Then reference, it is also called as outward number. So any letter going out of the organization must have to have that outward reference number. Then there is recipient address to whom you're writing the letter. Then there's a subject. And then after the subject, you will start with the salutation such as Mr. Dear so-and-so, dear Dr. So-and-so, dear Mr. So-and-so, dear Miss So-and-so, etc. That's called as a salutation. Then body paragraphs will include opening of the letter, which will introduce you to the subject for which you're writing about. Then at the central paragraph, which are usually 2 to 3, explaining more of your subject in detail. In 2 to 3 paragraphs, that will be the body paragraph. And closing paragraph will be what action you expect from the reader to take. Supposing you are writing a quotation letter or a sales letter where you are writing about the company in the first paragraph, then about the product and features of the product, specifics of the product, dimensions, characteristics, use, etc. in say 2, 3 products paragraphs. And in the last paragraph, you are writing that would you like to let us know? We would like to let know from you that can our representative visit your company and give a demo of our product. So this is a closing paragraph, which is asking the other side, the recipient of the letter, to take some action. Closing paragraph matters a lot for any letter to take an action. Unless and until you have a closing paragraph, there will not be any response. Again, that will be violating our rule of communication from sender to receiver, which I taught to you last time. Unless and until there is a feedback from receiver to the sender that communication process is not complete. So if the person on the other side reads that, can we request a demo, or can we send our representative to your company for the demo? This is the action which I am expecting the person who has received that letter to take. If he doesn't reply, you will send him another letter with reference to our earlier letter written with the inquiry coming from your side. We have not received any input from you that we would like to make our representative to come and have a demo. Would you like to have such kind of demo in the organization? So you are compelling that recipient to take some action. And from that perspective, closing paragraph is very much important. And then come signatures, enclosures, maybe your leaflets, then your red card list, then some samples, etc. Those could be the enclosures. Then if you're sending the same copy to all others, that is called as CC, copies circulated. Earlier, the CC abbreviation was carbon copies, because that time technology was not available, internet was not there, emails were not available. So people used to take physical carbon copies. Those who are who have crossed age of 40, they might be knowing the carbon material which was used earlier. That is still available in the market, but nobody uses now. So that CC word has come from there, carbon copies. But now it is called as copies circulated. Then there is something called as postscript. Postscript is some message. There are two reasons for writing a postscript. One reason, sometimes you write PS, stand for postscript. Sometimes you write NB. So postscript is written only when you think that there was something which was missing in the body of the letter. So you write postscript that there are few more varieties available and there are few more brands available of the above model. We would like to give you more information if you have got similar kind of requirement. So this you have never mentioned anywhere in the introduction or the body of the paragraph that you have got few more brands about the similar kind of product. So this becomes important for that person to read and which you missed out. So you write it after the copy circulate postscript. In the place of postscript, sometimes there is a trend to write NB. That word has come from Latin word called as nota bene, means note well. So nota bene is catching the attention of the reader that if you place, there could be such messages like if you place 2 orders of the same product, we would be able to give you 25% discount. If you miss this if you write this in the body of the letter, the reader might have missed it, which is very important from you to pitch that particular cell and to win that cell. So note bin or NB is written to highlight a particular part of your product or highlight a particular scheme or highlight the particular feature of your product. So you may write, this is the only, ours is the only product which has got say XYZ feature, which is not there in the other company. So when you want to highlight the attention of the reader, you write NB. When you missed out something to mention in the body of the letter, you write PS. And that is how the letter is completed. Again, we have a separate 3 credit subject on writing a business letter. So all that I couldn't unfortunately take care about in just 10-15 minutes time. But then since you all people are working, you might be doing it and you should be having to.
Sir, one question here. Sir, this postscript, is it applicable for email writing also? Can we use
Yes,
this?
You can write.
Email also.
Yes. Because ultimately, email is nothing but letter writing in a different medium, using different medium.
Right, but normally email can be edited and
yes, and we don't write so much things in the emails.
Right. Okay.
So you can have attachments. So for example, if you want to tell about your products, instead of writing in the body of the email, you can simply attach a PDF of your product features.
Right.
So you can curtail on the length of the email.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, I have already told you about this memorandum format.
Sir, Yogesh, one question to just previous slide, that salutation.
Yeah.
You are working in corporate culture. So actually what's happened, some European customers or European colleagues expecting to write a Mr. instead of dear. Or maybe you are when you are writing someone the other professional doctor. So in that case, how to write dear Mr. or dear doctor or directly Dr. XYZ?
Okay, now to answer your question, it is exactly the other way around. There are certain standards which are internationally accepted. So according to international standards of writing business letter, you are supposed to write dear Mr. or dear doctor, dear Miss, dear Mrs. Whether you know that person or not, or jokingly whether you like that person or not, you have to write dear. Rather, writing dear is mandatory in all formal letters, even if you're writing it for the first time. Yeah, that's a standard. But then certain industries, industry-wise, we might have to, change our ways of writing. Certain industries prefer not writing dear. They need to modify those things. But international standard way, you're supposed to write dear. On the top, you write the name, Mr. Amol Gawande, and then his full address, and then you write dear Mr. Amol, or dear Mr. Gawande, or dear sir. More often than not, we write dear sir or dear madam. If the person to whom you are sending a letter, you do not know whether he is the recipient is the designation holder is a boy or a girl, I mean a male or a female, then you can write dear sir or madam and then colon. These are certain standards internationally. That's what I said. So all those things may not be covered.
There is one word also, hello also, because
no, hello is treated as informal.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
So this is the format of memo which I explained, showing you the book. So you have to write the date, on the memorandum. The same word could be written on the top in capital letters, memorandum, date, then reference number, to, from, and subject, and then you simply write in the paragraph what is that memo all about. This is the top portion, and then the bottom half or the next part of that page is the detailed explanation of that subject. These are the parts of the memo which I have already demonstrated: to, from, date, reference, subject. There is no postal address recording memo. No salutation is required. No dear sir, no dear Mr. Nothing is required. No complimentary. We don't expect that person to take any kind of action. So there is no complimentary clause required. Memos are normally signed, but some include space for the writer's signature. So writer who's signing should have to sign that memo so that who's sending, the receiver will come to know. Normally memo has only one subject. If you got more than one subject, you have to split the memos into, you have to send 2 memos. Again, don't think memos from a memo perspective, what we have got to understand. Message is stated in the paragraphs as in the letter, should be brief and concise. It is not a business letter, so you should have to brief it. Memo should not be more than 1 page. It should be very concise and very much shortly made or shortly written, not more than 1 page. Enclosures, if at all required, could be. Otherwise, usually memos are without any kind of enclosures unless required. You may send the same memo to several different people, listing the names after the heading to. In the to itself, it is just like an email. In the to column, you can just keep on adding the email addresses. So memo could be sent to many other people also if you are sending it to many. You may send the copies to others to let others know what is going on. So you may, it is again with reference to email. In the that tab of to, you will have got only one email address, and there's another tab called as CC. So you'll have got copies circulated. There you will have got all other addresses. So the letter is written to only one person, memo is written to only one person, but other concern should be knowing that this memo is given to somebody else. But for your information, it's just like for your information, FY. That is what FYI people write it at the end of messages or letters. That is again informal. So for information of others, you write CC. There's another word in emails which we use in our formal letters and hard copies also, called as BCC. BCC is blind copies circulated. So if you type any email address in BCC, those all who are receiving that email will not come to know that you are sending the same email to many others along with that person. So those email IDs will be hidden from all the recipients. But you know, in your email which you sent, you got all those email IDs with you. You know that to whom you have sent. So therefore, other people are blind about the email sent to others. Therefore, it's called as blind copies circulated. So that is something which has been used in industry. The same thing in hard copies and same thing it's there in the emails. It's also called as courtesy copy or copies circulated. Now coming to the applications. So when you write an application for job change, or maybe at the initial stage, so there is something called a CV, which you're supposed to write, and cover letter, which I will mention after this slide. So cover letter should, I've already told you 2 examples of writing the cover letter about manager purchase and manager inventory. You will have to write covering letter, which will match up with your CV, your experience with that type of industry, and the JD, which the company where you are applying for is asking. Now there is some slight difference, which we very commonly use these words as biodata. Send us your biodata. Some people will send us a resume. Some people will send your CV. Slight differences. Biodata is very much at the junior level, and that word is almost outdated now. No industry is using the word biodata. Very often industries will use the word, you send me your resume or send me your CV. Resume is at the initial stages of the career. The more you become senior and senior, what you send to the people for the employment is CV, which is a German word, I guess, I'm not very sure. Curriculum vitae. So which is your entire career mentioned in the document called as CV. And all that CV should include the things which are mentioned on this slide. This is exactly the photograph taken from the book, so that you will refer the same there. Academic achievement, including schools and colleges attended, area of study, specialization, marks scored, grades, extracurricular activities, computer skills, languages known, hobbies and special interests, special studies courses, employment details along with work experience, then your responsibilities you are handling, what is your job profile, whom you are reporting to, all those things should be very clearly mentioned. In your book, there is one example of CV they have given. It is not necessary that the one which is given in the book is always a standard CV. You can go through the Google, or even if you type the word CV or open a document, start typing CV, the word itself will prompt you that CV assistance, and then you will be guided to that particular website, which will help you in writing a CV. But then not necessarily that you should take the help, depending upon your designation kind of experience, the industry type where you work. You can have your own format of CV. There are certain standards where you write your objective of your entire life and career. You have got a photograph, then your basic information like telephone, email, websites at the top. Then objective. Then you start with your experiences first, and then come to the education, and then at the end you come to the personal details. But then all these are used as standard, but not necessarily that is the only standard. Depending on your designations, you may change those places. But then what are the things mentioned? Continuing, career related contributions and achievements, core competencies, skills, expertise, technical competencies, professional education related to the post which you're holding, professional accreditation, licenses, certificates if you have, if your organizations have, memberships and affiliation, your individuals memberships and affiliations to the global bodies, then global organizations, etc. Like NIPM, ISTD, all such kind of digital marketing organizations, etc. Seminars and workshops attended, awards and honors, publications, paper research will be more for academics. Consultancy and speaking assignments as a consultant or even as a top authority person in that particular area. Many companies will hire you because you have been a successful consultant. They might hire you on their permanent role, they might hire you as a consultant. So as a consultant also, you will have to present a CV, which doesn't always follow all these things. Because when you are asking a CV from a consultant, you don't need to have from where he has got a 10 standard or 12 standard done. His areas of expertise should be focused. His clientele database of which are the clients or which are the companies, the corporates he has been giving the consultancy, what is the level of consultancy, what is the amount and volume of the consultancy, what are the charges and the remuneration with they're charging, honorarium they're charging. All those things are important. So CV of a consultant and CV of a person asking for a job, those are going to be different. So this is the one which is there in front of you is for asking for a job. Then prominent training programs and institutions you have attended, then hobbies and the interests which are out of the post which you are applying. But then from employee engagement point of view, many companies give a lot of importance to your hobbies and interests. If you are working in, let's say, a product development department, and if you have got a hobby of photography, then the possibility of you getting selected are more, because product development department may require to click the product photographs. And if you have got your portfolio ready of the product as a hobby, you have done some product photography or some kind of documentary which you have made, so that will add on to your CV and that will help you to get placed as compared to somebody else who's holding a similar kind of qualification. So because of your hobbies and interests, also at some places you might be picked up. Personal details and contact address, as I said, comes last. Community service as you're doing. Do you have the feeling of giving to the society back, and how have you worked and in which areas you work in the community service? And then references is usually it is expected you have got one reference from your immediate previous organization. So when somebody is leaving a job and joining a company, it is always asked to the earlier organization how you were as that XYZ position holder, how you were as an individual human being, how you were as a person. So those kind of questions are asked as a reference. And then as far as academic reference are concerned, we get the mails from the companies asking for only the factual details of the student, where he is transferred from your institution, in which area he has passed out, what grade he has got, and his certificate to be provided. So such kind of references we get it. But then in general, any job seekers, these references are the names who are big names in that particular area, fraternity, that particular industry type, who know you and who are likely to recommend you and talk, of course, good about you, your skills, your ability, your competency, your potential, your educational background, your being as a very effective manager. So references are always to be given from your own field, and one reference has to be from an immediate previous organization. So whenever you leave the organization, do not leave the organization by having some kind of dispute with the earlier organization. You are likely to be asked for the references from the earlier organization. And who is the answerable question to these references is your immediate boss. So it usually happens that when it is a very golden statement in our companies or in corporate world, we say that people don't leave companies. People don't leave companies, they leave their bosses. They get bugged up, they get irritated by their bosses and they leave. Now, when they leave, they are likely to have some kind of confrontations with the boss that is likely to leave a negative impression in the mind of a boss and an employee as well. But when an employee leaves, he is trying to seeking some a job in some another organization, he is likely to be given a negative feedback by the earlier boss. So whatever it is, when you are leaving an organization, leave it with the amicable relations with the earlier organization, because these references matter to you when you are likely to get selected, and that is a step where you are likely to get rejected. Talking about the interview skills and interview techniques, that is the last step, which is most of the times taken. In most of the foreign organizations, they have got a system that they will be asking you, would you mind if we contact your references? So if you click on no, then you don't mind contacting. So they will contact you the references. If you click on yes, they will not contact your references. Yes, Mr. Anand.
Yes, so as you said, there will be a negative impact if the next company calls your boss for information.
Yes.
But sometimes what happens, if even if your relations are good with the all department heads and your HOD also, sometimes what happens, due to selfishness of the management, they don't they give a negative feedback to the next company, so that next company doesn't hire that person and he doesn't get the job and he continues with the same organization. Sometimes this also happens.
Yeah, some cases are there, but then unfortunately I don't have any answer for that, because it all totally depends upon the philosophy of the management. Even as I am from HR and from a behavioral science, so I would vouch for that fact. It depends upon that person. So even if you had got some confrontation with the person for which you shouldn't spoil somebody's career, it might have been definitely, when confrontations happen, those are definitely happening with your profession. So for your profession, you shouldn't damage somebody's career or damage somebody's entire life. So as an individual human being, every individual should think about that when writing the reference. You may skip writing the negative part, you may keep it reserved, but you don't need to make it specific and mention it in the references. You can talk about the skill, whichever you think are positive, keep aside negative things. So whatever good experience you have got, you should mention. But then, as you rightly said, people don't do it. But then such cases are also very rare. Since I have also worked in industry, so there were many confrontations earlier which has happened with me and my boss, with me and my lower colleagues or lower level subordinates. But then when it comes to references, we usually, as a I won't say rule, but then usually nobody writes bad about somebody, because it is likely to be on the record. So if somebody is talking about your negatively on you, then you can always take an action against when it is there on an email. So usually while writing on the references on email, nobody is writing negatively. On telephone, the person might say one or two sentences negative. He's very much hot tempered. Fine. Nothing wrong in it. If somebody is hot tempered, there are many people who are hot tempered. That doesn't actually be influencing your decision of getting selected. It also depends upon the selection company. If only for that one sentence, the selection company is likely to reject you with all other your credentials much better than any other candidate, then the other companies also making some mistake based on some one small sentence you just said. So there is no any hard and fast rule as there is no any solution for that. But then, as you said, such cases do happen. Should be avoided. As an individual, you should at least try to avoid this while giving reference of any way. Unless it is too severe, unless it has gone to court, unless it has gone to some police cases and all, then in that case, these references will not come to you. Those will be directly found out on online sources, and they will come to know about that person from outside. Then going ahead, yeah, that was unit number 5 which you have started. I should be able to finish in last 20 minutes. This talks about employment communication, and application is one of the prime important employment communication, where the employment communication starts with. Therefore, that point was there. First, so composing application, you have to have your CV and a cover letter along with the CV. CV is a document which will mention about all these details mentioned here. And covering letter is not a job application interview. That there I have made it very much clear. Slight difference between the two. Covering letter should justify along with the CV attached how I am the most eligible person probably for this particular position. 1 page cover letter is expected. Maximum it could go to 2 pages, not more than that. And then you have got all the details given there, right from grades, years of experience, your JDs there, what responsibilities you were handling, to whom you were reporting, how many number of people of the team you were handling with, what section you were looking after, what particular geographical region you were, what international exposure do you have. All those things you can mention in the different headings which are there in front of you. Other than those things could also be mentioned there. For example, in my CV, I do a lot of corporate training, MDPs and consultancy, HR consultancy. So in my CV, which is not a point to mention here, I have written the clients as to whom I have provided consultancy in training and HR. So I've got the names of all those companies to whom I have gone so far. So when I get more companies, those names get added. So that is a part of my CV, which is not enlisted here. So depending upon the position where you're applying for type of industry, certain points could be added from the list which is in front of you. Certain points could be deleted or avoided. Then we talk about GD. Now GDs are two types. One is from the perspective of academic GDs, which you people conduct going for the recruitment in the company, campus recruitment, what we say. So you do conduct GDs where the ability of the individual human, the person, the small boy or that graduate or a postgraduate is supposed to be recruited. Then you try to identify GD skills. Now GD skill or the GD will get converted into something what we call as a brainstorming session, or in the form of meetings, which are the meetings which are having some kind of discussion and then coming out with some kind of thinking. So GDs, meetings and brainstorming all mean the same, only the purposes are different. Now in GDs for selection process, what do we see in GDs? So the language skill of that postgraduate student, whether it's grammatical accurate, whether his sentence construction is accurate, whether his way of tone of speaking is accurate, that is been studied in communication skills, so vocabulary, pronunciation, fluency, etc. So you would be able to identify in the GD the communication skills of that individual human being, individual student who's there in the GD. Then logical thinking of that person, GD usually is conducted in academics by giving some kind of topic. The simplest topic could be whether love marriages are better or arranged marriages are better, or whether you think that online courses are better or offline courses are better. Some such kind of topic which will always have got two sides are given for the discussion, and when the people are putting forth their points in GD, it is supposed to be happening that one person, if he decides to talk for the topic and the other person decides to speak against the topic, they should stick to that, because they are expected to convince and justify why they are for the topic, and they are expected to justify why they are against the topic, and they should have to have a logical thinking in their communication and their justification. So by the points which the person is putting forth, the systematic way the person is putting forth, you will understand his logical process in being for the topic or being against the topic, which will be also clear from the contents of information which is selected. So he might say, give me an example of early topic, love marriage are better or arranged marriage are better. So he might give you a statement that statistically some research has been done, it is proven that 67% love marriages are ending up into divorce, whereas there are only 11% of arranged marriages who result into say divorce. So it means arranged marriages are better than. So here he is giving more statistical information. So his logical thinking also seen. His study about the particular topic is also seen. He will come out to the recent happening. He will say that in IT companies more divorces are being found. Again, he will make some percentages. So we will be able to find out the person has gathered a lot of information about what is happening in the research field related to the topic. At the same time, in the GDs, what is seen, academic GDs I'm talking about now, consideration from other participants. It shouldn't happen that you are a part of that GD group discussion with 10 people sitting with you, and you are just going on and on and on speaking only about yourself. You can see that 9 people are speaking nothing, or you are not allowing other people to see. allow people to speak, that is not treated as a good point in GD. So you should always have consideration for other participants. GD time is usually given 20 to maximum 30 minutes. During those 20 minutes time, 10 people are supposed to speak. So on an average, you should get only 4 minutes on an average. Not all the people speak in the GD, that is something different. But then you should be knowing that you shouldn't be speaking more than 4 minutes total in the GD of say 20 minutes. While you are speaking, you should also look at others. It has to be a discussion with all those who are there. And you should see that somebody else is also trying to put for some point. You should give that person a choice to speak. You should stop and you should say, yes, Mr. Satish, what would you like to see? So there, the consideration for other participant will be seen you as a participant, as well as your leadership skill also will be tested. You could see that some people are not talking. You will say, yes, Mr. Smita, Mrs. Smita, why are you not talking? What are your views on this? She may be talking against the point which you mentioned, but then she is not talking at all. Some people are there who are very shy, who don't speak. So your leadership skill, taking all the people into the discussion, considering the participation of all the people depends, and that will be very well seen in the academic GDs. And consistency of participation. It shouldn't happen that you start with a GD, finish up with your 4 minutes, and remaining 16 minutes you don't speak at all. That doesn't happen in GD. It happens to one side coming. If somebody is talking with some kind of figures which you know are wrong, you can contradict that person by mentioning it very decently that according to me, according to the report which I recently read in Times of India Ascent on 27th of April, whatever you are saying, I think I would like to add to this. So you may contradict to a statement, but then you use very decent language. So how you are consistent in participation, consistently your presentation participation should be broken up into 20 minutes, not right at the start and not at the end, not somewhere in between. So you should be participating, keeping on participating in between, and your average time should be 4 minutes to 6 minutes or 8 minutes, depending upon the duration of it. So these are the things which are tested in the GD. The same thing will carry forward in the workplaces when we have got brainstorming session. In brainstorming session, probably the language skills may not matter, because ultimately communication, what he wants to tell you, what he wants to say, that is more important. Most of the brainstorming sessions in the industries like India, the regional languages can also be used. They are allowed to speak in Marathi or in Gujarati, wherever they are belonging, so that his point is kept forward. Logical thinking is also seen in these discussions which are happening in the brainstorming sessions which are happening in the industry. Contents, information, whatever you are saying, do you have any information with you? Would you like to support it with some kind of statistical data? Please present it or please tell us. So contents matter. So during the brainstorming session, you have to have everything which is foolproof, because you are likely to take a decision after the brainstorming. In GDs, it may be decision of testing the person's leadership skills or consistency, consideration for others, and his vocabulary skills, interpersonal communication. That is all happening at the recruitment. But in brainstorming session, you are likely to take up a decision by consensus by all those 10 people. So there has to be a very systematic way of carrying out these group discussions or brainstorming. So what is to be done for being effective, not only in GD, but in brainstorming session, you should be very well aware about current happening in all the fields, not only in the field, in typical academic GDs. You have to have all this information from film, from politics, from sports, from science, business, education, culture, international relations, etc. So that you are known to the selection person, that you are a knowledgeable person and you know what is happening in the current field. In brainstorming session, you should be knowing about your business, about the discussion which is happening, about the department, etc., and all the information pertaining to that. Your English grammar, vocabulary, vocalic should be better. When we are talking about this academic GD, this may be a point, but then for brainstorming session, English doesn't matter, communication matters. Then with modest frequency and consistency should be there with the participants which are discussing. Then when somebody else is talking, do not intervene, let him complete. If you think that he is talking too much, he has exceeded 4 minutes time, then you can take a lead where your leadership skills also would be coming into the picture. Instead of saying that you're speaking for more than last 4 to 5 minutes and I want to speak, you can say that I think Ms. Smita also has got some point. Where you are taking the lead, but then not for you to talk, but then somebody else also want to express and you are overrunning your time. So be decent in requesting that person to stop. Do not intervene him. Then you have got to see that privilege of other members also to participate in the discussion. So you should always be asking for the opinions of all the shy people who are there sitting with you amongst those 10, but out of 10, only 6 people are just going on talking, 4 are not doing anything, not talking at all, not participating at all. They are on their WhatsApp or SMS, or then that is not accepted. So you have to take them in a meeting, you have to bring them in confidence, you have to ask them what is your opinion. So if we take this decision, what do you think about this? So it is a privilege of all the members to participate. That should be seen by either the conductor of this group discussion meeting, because otherwise, usually GDs do not have a leader. So leader has to be identified amongst the group. A brainstorming session may have a leader, but then he just in charge of conducting that meeting, not taking any kind of decision. Otherwise, it won't remain brainstorming session. Then be logical in your contents and sequence. Follow all the manners and etiquette. Do not humiliate. Do not insult anybody by interrupting him or by cross-talking him, by directly crossing somebody. Do not humiliate. Do it in a very decent way. Take the initiative. Start with the discussion. Summarize at the end, and give or ask non-speaker members also to speak. So all those things are to be followed either in GDs or brainstorming session or those kind of consensus arriving meetings. Then types of interviews, I'll quickly go through it. 10 minutes are remaining. Screening interviews, which you people do in the form of either a written test or maybe a quick interview. Maybe in 1 or 2 minutes, you ask some basic fundamental questions, minimum qualifications, there's some kind of skills required, and then you just do away with the candidate, ask for the next candidate. So it's a first screening interview. Then you shortlist. Then you go more into informational interviews. Then a directive style interview where you have got same series of questions you are asking to all. So where you are likely to have different answers from different people, and you can judge the candidates based on that. Meandering style is not a fixed questions, not stocked questions, not disciplined list of questions. So tell me about yourself is the first question which is usually asked, and then you go on probing into the question. There is no list of questions available with you. That is meandering. Meandering means moving through the discussion. So through the discussion, you might have some different questions coming up. So if he is talking about some industry, okay, how many years you worked with that industry? Okay, what is your job profile? Okay, you have worked in that industry, that country. So how was your feeling about the culture of the country? So your questions are not defined. During the discussion, these questions will keep on meandering, keep on regenerating, keep on probing. So most of the senior level interviews are like that. Junior level, you can have the structured questionnaire. Stress interview, not very much expected to be conducted for all the designations, but for the designation which are likely to be faced with a lot of stress, specifically in the sales area, then in the areas like fighter flight attendant or a pilot, those where they are likely to be under a lot of stress. So only in those kind of cases you may have some kind of stress interviews conducted, not required for all. Group interview where group of people are conducting interview, which is a panel interview also called that, where people sit at one place in a round table fashion. The candidate is at the center, and they ask questions to you. All the people can ask, or anybody among the team can ask the question to the single individual candidate, which is also called as a tag team interview. Multiple people will interview simultaneously to whether your skills are balanced or you can get along with others. You will proceed through a series of one-to-one interviews. So this is slightly different. Group interview might be for one time, then tag team interview might be for rounds of interview. First interview, second round, third round, HR round, technical round, then negotiation round, etc. Those could be called as tag team interview. But then tag team interview, every time you got, instead of one person, you will have at least 2-3 person or a panel interview, more than one person. Mealtime interview, more suitable for the very higher positions or senior positions. So instead of making it too much formal, let it be a kind of, I won't say casual, but semi-formal. You are asking only the questions related to job profile, your earlier experience, etc. But then in more of a time which you can spend with somebody at the senior position, you can have dinner or lunch, and then those interviews are carried out for the top level position. Some of you might have experienced it. Follow-up interview, maybe just like tag team interview, the second or third time or fourth time of interviews. Then there are behavior interview which could be conducted for understanding problem solving skill, adaptability, etc. You can carry out some kind of psychometric test, which I have recently done for one of my consultancy organizations. They wanted to recruit the apex level manager HR. So we had 3 rounds of interview which are conducted for that person, and at the end I have conducted 2 psychometric tests on that person. And based on the psychometric test, I've given them the ratings of all the 3 shortlisted candidates, and 1 person was selected. So that was not a behavioral interview, but then behavioral technique of interviewing a candidate for that particular higher position. Then audition is a kind of interview which is more related to all the TV shows, etc. Audition of television, radios, etc. Those are again kind of interviews to show your skills. So these are types of interviews from the perspective of we as managers. Effective interviewing is required. You are on the other side. You are asking the questions. So how you should behave or what you should follow. There should be very much a clarity of question and its purpose in your mind. And you should have to have the knowledge of the question which is asked. Very often I have been on interview panels of many companies, of many university places also. The person who is asking the question, he himself doesn't know the answer. That is not expected. So there should be a very clear clarity in the mind of the person who is asking the question, and he should know the answer. Because unless otherwise he knows the answer, how will he claim that whether the person who is giving an answer is correct answer or wrong answer? So while asking the question, you should be knowing the clarity of that question. Use non-verbal communication. Suppose the person in front of you is not understanding your question. Non-verbal communication means you can use your gestures, you can use your facial expressions, you can use your expressions on the face and different kind of body language. Use appropriate language. Language in the sense, language of speaking. Very often in the industries also, you would come across, even nowadays for very higher manager positions also, there are people who are not very comfortable speaking English. Some people are very excellent in their written communication, drafting, but then they cannot speak very excellent English. Some people are technically very perfect. Talking about typically engineers, they fail miserably in the interviews because they cannot speak English properly. This is a general observation, not a common comment. So if there are any engineers, I'm also engineer, so don't get hurt. So it is observation that, because I've been in COAP, so all our campus interviews, most of the people who were excellent in communication, they used to get placed first than the person who is excellent engineer, because he cannot communicate. So as a candidate, you need to develop your language skills, whichever you're comfortable with. Expected language of communication in any corporate is English, mind way. So anyway, you have to develop your English. Very often, if you are likely to get by chance to work with an MNC company, there you cannot tell that I cannot speak English. At least at the verbal level, at the communication level, you should be able to speak English or write English or communicate or converse in English. Local language, maybe vernacular language is accepted in your state or maybe restricted to India. If you go out of India, you cannot speak Hindi. You cannot speak in Marathi, Tamil, Bengali, etc. So you have to speak in English. All those non-English speaking countries like Germany, Japan, Russia, even Singapore, most of the Southeast Asian countries, they had their own language. They never wanted to change it, but now they have also accepted that English is an international language. You have to follow it. So anyhow, at whatever designation you are, you have to improvise on your language, and specifically when you are a candidate. When you are on the other side of asking the question, you can just simply write down that question and ask, to avoid the candidate laughing at your English skills. Ability to recognize the talent, you should be able to identify the person who I am selecting. Do I have the ability to identify whether he is a suitable candidate for us or not? Conversational skill you need to have. Interview doesn't mean that you ask your question and then sit idle. Don't do anything. Then once it's finished, ask the second question. It is not. Interview is a conversation. You are trying to understand the interview of the other person, the person sitting in front of you. What are his views? So you have to have conversational skills, not into question answering skills. Ability to control the emotions. That is a total formal environment, so though there's no place for emotion. Do not talk too much, because it is interview more to know the person, to know, just as I've said, to know the inter part of that, to view the inter part of that person, more to know rather than you knowing more or you talking more. So don't talk too much. Listen. That is where most of the interviewers don't do. They are in a very much hurry to ask the next question. They probably will share their own experience based on a candidate experience and waste a lot of time. Listening is supposed to be a skill which we discussed last time. Why people don't listen? There are a lot of reasons which we have discussed last time. So listening is a skill, and most of the managers unfortunately do not have. You should show a friendly behavior, means make that candidate very much at ease. Ask that candidate to settle down. Don't take tension. Be free. Don't be under any kind of tension or stress or anxiety. Be comfortable, but you should not be too familiar. Even if you know the candidate, those kind of questions should not be there. So I know you. That should be shown in any kind of formal interview process. You should have, last but not the least, ability to explain or justify if you are selecting somebody or not selecting somebody and the scores which you are giving. All the companies do have, but the standard score sheet made for the selection based on his language skills, then technical abilities, interpersonal communication skills, then his body language. There may be many headings, again depending upon the position. These headings will change. The total is suppose 50 headings are divided into 5, 5, 5 into 10 headings. So when giving the marks, unfortunately, I have seen people, they do give entire marks after the candidate has gone, then starting 5, 3, 2, 1, 5, and then they just give the total without looking at the heading. This is very dangerous, because if asked by a candidate, typically in government organization, this does happen. The people who have got some kind of reservations on the post, they are likely to complain against the non-selection. So you should be able to justify your score. You should be able to justify why you have selected a particular candidate. Nobody probably would ask you why if you select a person, but there may be the people who might ask you if you don't select. So to be very particular in your ability to explain and give the score. So these are the things to be followed in effective interviewing. Last 10 minutes I'll cover and then we'll end. These are the technological advancements which are happening in the business communication. Fax. Before the fax, we used to have landline telephones. Now I guess landline telephones are almost out of market. BSNL is facing a lot of kind of losses, crores of losses, because people are surrendering land. Nobody is using nowadays. Then there was something called as fax that has also become outdated now. So emails have overpowered fax, and you can just send across the email within microseconds. Fax still would have taken more amount of time, because it is just like taking the printout from a printer. The same printer has been provided with the fax facility by most of the printer manufacturing companies. So the page will come out of the printer. It will take 5 seconds. Email will come in just microseconds. So email has overpowered and become technologically advanced in business communication. Instant messaging, you have got many apps available, including the one which I mentioned at the right at the bottom. WhatsApp, then Insta, Viber chat. There are many, WeChat, there are many such kind of chats of Insta, Telegram, etc. So those are for the instant messaging. Voicemails and messages are there. You can record and send the message. Earlier it used to be sent only through emails, but nowadays you can send through all these chatting software. Every chatting software has got a voicemail facility. And recently the Supreme Court has given the decision that the communication on WhatsApp and similar kind of chat software is also treated as a proof of communication. So you have to be very careful about communication on WhatsApp or any kind of chat software, because it may be treated as a message or voice message or instant message or even a text message for further things. Yes, Anand sir.
So as you said, the government has approved that WhatsApp chats or
Yes.
that can be used as a proof. So in audits, if we want to show some proofs on our chats or WhatsApp, so it is okay.
Yes.
It is
Yes.
a valid proof.
Yes, it is valid proof.
Okay.
If it is for, if you are talking about from the negative perspective, if you want to charge somebody, if you want to give a memo or show cause letter, then it has to be routed through a proper channel. In that case, you might have to go to the WhatsApp server and then asking for, then a lot of formalities are required to be complete. But for all your formal communication, you can show it as a formal.
Okay, yes. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Then electronic data exchange is happening, data interchange is happening through online transfer to be the best example. Then transactions happening online, different kind of applications happening online. Then most of the companies, they do have something called as ERP, which I have written here. ERP, which wherein you can include the vendors also, you can include your forward and backward integration people into ERP. So they will have an access to that ERP, and everything will happen through electronic data interchange. You will have your purchase order also going through ERP. The material person will, the supplier will send you the invoice and bill copy, everything on an ERP. That could be possible, which can happen something through called as extranet. So extranet is extended part of intranet. Intranet is you will have got communication amongst yourself. your own company people, maybe your branches across the city, across the state, across the country, but only within your organization. Extranet is slightly ahead of it. You are allowing some other people also to use your ERP. Other people means, as I was mentioning just now, your vendors, your material suppliers, then maybe your dealers, distributor, retailers could also be the part of it. Then some of the outside consultant can be the part of it. Some of the outside to whom you have outsourced some kind of work, maybe salary calculations. Most of the companies they do it. So those people could be the part of this extranet. So only the authorized outsiders, they are the part of this extranet. Intranet is only within your organization, which we call as an ERP, enterprise resource planning. You can have some kind of SAP software, SAP training are given. You've got SAP modules only on HR and supply chain and all those areas. So depending upon the affordability, the companies are going in for ERP SAPs. So those are definitely used for the purpose of internal communication, data change, electronic data change, and then sharing of all those transfers, and putting orders, all those documentation, etc. Nowadays, it has gone extended. Internet is the entire world has come into your palms, in your handset. Then more advanced technologies are being used in business communication in typically marketing areas, which you could see it here: artificial intelligence, machine learning, virtual reality. Those all are being very effectively used for the purpose of communication. There is this Singapore airport where I've seen the robots are walking in, and you can talk to the robots about any flight which you want to fly where, and then you can literally get all the information from the robot, which looks like a human being, but of course looks like a machine. You can identify that he's a robot. You simply have to go to him. Robot will shake hand with you. You can ask questions to him. He will answer all your questions. This is nothing but artificial intelligence used for business communication. Why that airlines have done this? Because they are using it for the purpose of artificial intelligence. There are some airport which I've seen some video where there are some kind of cartoon characters are there on the airport. Those will play with the children. It is again from the purpose of attracting the customers and making customers use and fly more frequently to their airport and increasing the business. Machine learning is the good example of automation and robotization happening in all the industries. Virtual reality. If you want to that Dubai Twin Towers, they have got a virtual reality that if you fall from the 153rd floor, how you will get a feeling. So that is being used in nowadays very effectively in all the industries. Wireless communication, all the communication which is happening on through your handset is nothing but a wireless communication. But then it is for purpose of formal communication. The police, then intelligence people, then RBI, then CBI people, those people are using wireless communication. Military operations, they are using it very effectively. That is a very close communication within the groups. It doesn't go outside. And of course, in our field, for knowledge management, you have got all these ERP, the learning culture, then L&D kind of services which are provided through online. And then people can learn, understand by seeing videos, taking some short courses available, internally done, and you might send them the links of some courses like Coursera, then maybe Satyam or maybe Udemy. People are doing the courses. So knowledge management is improving the effectiveness of the people, or to develop that online learning culture, or nowadays we call it as a culture which is not totally online, the culture which is not totally offline. We call it as a hybrid learning. So some portion you can learn online, some portion you can learn or do it offline. And last but not the least is all these WhatsApp chats, calls, etc., which is happening. I think I don't know whether I was successful in making you understand, but then this book, which I've shown you, it is available in our library, and you can just go through it. You can get it issued from the library. See it. Just a minute. I'll just remove this background so that you'll be able to see. Just a minute. Give me a minute.
So it's elements of managerial communication.
Yes, yes.
Yes, all these books we have got from the college.
Yes, elements of managerial communication. So all the things are there. Somebody has asked me the question last time, what kind of questions are likely to be asked. So all the questions are also there in the book. At the end of every chapter, it is asking you to check where you are, and the same questions will be asked in the exam. So you can just go through the book, you'll get a fair idea.
Yeah, sure, sir. Sure, sir. Thanks.
If at all you need any help, you can write down my email, which is there at the bottom. And this is my personal website. The institution website is also there. This is institute website, uvipms.com. This is my personal hr.trainer.com. And this is my email.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you all. This meeting I have recorded, so I'll send the link to Amitabh sir. Unfortunately, last Sunday, some technical thing had happened and the Zoom got closed up without recording the meeting. But this meeting is recorded. I send to Amitabh. Similarly, whatever slides I have shown to you, there are some 56 slides. I have prepared a PDF that also I'll share with Amitabh sir and he will share it.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Yeah, take care.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.